So Jerry invited me. I understand you guys wanted to learn more about the Coast Guard, what we offer for you guys here in the community. The best way I can think is kind of tell you about my career, about a little bit about me, and then kind of open up the floor for Q&A and whatever questions you guys have. So a little bit about me. I joined 12 years ago, or this January will be 12 years in the Coast Guard. I'm second generation Coast Guard. My dad is actually still in. He's 32 years now, so I got pretty big shoes to fill. So I've moved around my entire life, all up and down the East Coast, kind of living the Coast Guard life from the family side to now on this side. When I first joined, I went to Cape May, New Jersey for boot camp for 8 weeks. Then they wanted to send me to a ship out of Jacksonville, Florida. I was on the Coast Guard cutter VALIANT. I was a non-rate. I didn't have a specialty yet. I was cleaning dishes, scrubbing toilets, all the fun stuff you hear about. And I spent about a year there, learning how the Coast Guard treats you, our missions, and I put my name on a list to be a boatswain's mate. So I went to Boatswain A school after a year, and that's why I learned my trade. I'm supposed to be the expert in navigation. My major qualification is a coxswain. So a coxswain in the Coast Guard is in charge of a small boat, and they're in charge of that team to execute our law enforcement missions, our search and rescue missions. They're in charge, regardless of rank. I've seen an E3 who's like 3 grades lower than me in charge of me for a mission on a boat. That's the qualification. So that would be my trade. I'm also a federal law enforcement officer. So like after I went to A school, I went to Annapolis, Maryland at a search and rescue station there, very similar to here, but up in Maryland. And that's when I kind of learned to be a coxswain. I was a BM3 and E4. And I also became a federal law enforcement officer. That's where I learned how to enforce all federal laws. And if Coast Guard stops you, I'm that guy that's going to harass you for about 10 minutes, hopefully nicely, and say, hey, where's your life jackets? And see all that. So that's what we do. So I learned there. I was in Maryland for 4 years, and then I got orders again after 4 years to the Coast Guard cutter THETIS in Key West, Florida. From there, the mission was counter-drug and illegal migration in the Caribbean and the Pacific. So I spent 3 years, half that time literally at sea, combating drug running. And my last drug bust was about 3,000 pounds of cocaine coming from Colombia, heading towards our border. So I spent 3 months at a time out, 3 months home, and just kept going back and forth, stopping all that stuff. So I got some pretty cool stories if you want to hear about that. I never stopped a submarine. That's the unicorn. We're all chasing those submarines. We'd stopped a lot of low-profile vessels. And the way I describe it, they're really homemade in the jungles. But the easy way to describe it, I always use a sailboat. If you cut the sailboat at the hull, fiberglass it over with a little cabin in the back, that's it. They have a small little engine on the back. They go about 6 knots on the water, minimum wake, and the only way you can find it is by airplanes or helicopters and trying to find their wake. And then we find them, we go chase them. So I had a lot of fun doing that for 3 years. I even got my underway OD letter, so I was able, the captain trusted me enough to drive the ship. I got to drive a warship. That was pretty cool. I never thought I'd get to do that. I earned that qual. And then I came here. I made rank, made a first E6, first class petty officer in the Coast Guard, similar to the Navy, or a staff sergeant if you're familiar with the Army. So that's like kind of my equivalent of pay raise or pay grade. And my job here, I'm the operations petty officer, so my main job is to manage our duty sections. So at Station Fort Myers Beach, there's 2 sections. They have a 48-hour rotation. So they live at station. They're just like a firehouse, if you can imagine. They're waiting for that SAR alarm to go off, the search and rescue alarm, and they'll run down, grab their guns, go to the boat, and try to help whoever needs help. So I manage the sections, make sure everyone's proper qualifications, their time off and on. And then I'm the main guy to kind of outreach to you guys and also our partners. So I have Lee County Sheriff comes by all the time. I'm down here working with Collier County Sheriffs, all the fire departments. I lose track of how many people I meet and we partner with. So I'm that guy always leaving the station, going to meetings and talking to people and kind of getting our word out. And that's about it. I think a lot of questions might open up more about what I do in the station, but with that, so quick synopsis of me, and I'll open up the floor for questions. That's cool. Where's the station you're at here in Naples? It's in Fort Myers Beach. Oh, yep, and then we're looking to work with our Coast Guard Auxiliary here in Naples. In the past, we used to send a boat crew down, and they'll spend the weekend down here and put more presence, because it's about 2.5-2 hour drive for us to get down here. And I got to worry about fuel, and then my guys have so many hours on it. And technically, we're a one crew station. So in 48 hours, I'm only required to have 1 crew. I'm kind of manned that way. I don't really have more people to kind of put 2 boats out all the time. So I have to kind of play that game because our area of responsibility is 10,000 islands down south all the way up to Boca Grande Pass. So I got 1 boat that covers all of that. So that's why I really like our partners and I work with them and we help each other out. Yeah, so That's why you might not see a lot of us, but I'm hoping to get more people and actually spend a whole weekend down here, so we'll bother you guys a little bit more.
I just, are you in for 20 years? Or?
I'm in for 20 years, yep. I mean, just like every other branch, I get that retirement option at 20. I got 8 more years to go, so it'll be...
Well, I just want to put a personal plug in for you, because 20-some years ago, I had a heart attack out there on my sailboat in May, 95-degree weather, you know. Yeah. And the crew on board called it in to the Coast Guard. Mm-hmm. And the Coast Guard, I just simply call them men of steel. Really, they came out, I think they had 3 big 400-horse engines on the back, or maybe it was, I think it was 3.
We used to, yep, they're 33 feet long, 300 horsepower Mercury engines.
Big, and there were like 4 or 5 guys, mm-hmm. And they came, and they kept, the boat kept on going at 6-7 knots, heading for the beach, you know, and they pulled right up alongside, they jumped over, they grabbed me, put me there, and off we went, and next thing I know, I'm rolling down the dock on a gurney. Mm-hmm. And you know, I owe it to the Coast Guard.
I'm glad we were there for you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yep.
Any other questions, or?
How frequently are you called out, and what kind of calls do you go out?
Any call you can imagine, any call that someone will call 911 for, we've probably seen it or dealt with it at some point. It's a rough estimate, is about 1,000 calls we deal with throughout the year. That's basically 2-3 calls a day. We may not launch or be a part of every single mission. And something that's super unique about these surrounding counties is Lee County started, and it's growing to Collier here and up in Charlotte. It's called MERT, Maritime Emergency Response Team, or I'm sorry, Task Force. And essentially it's a communication network between 911 dispatch and all the partners. I think just in Lee County alone, there's 36 partners. I know it's expanding down here and up north. But what that means is if you were to call 911, and most people nowadays are grabbing their cell phone calling 911, if you go to any other county, it takes a few minutes for them to go, oh, I need to call the Coast Guard, and they call the Coast Guard, and that's a delay in trying to help people. Now, 911 dispatch centers know they'll answer the initial questions, and then they're immediately notifying every single agency, regardless if it's law enforcement, medical, or whatnot. So we will initially act and respond, and if there's a case down here, but Collier County Sheriff's like, oh, I'm 5 minutes from on scene, we're standing by, because it's 2 hours for me to get here. So we work together, and if they need a search pattern or need assistance, I can help them that way as well. So I might not be responding to 1,000 cases, but we're actively involved in about 1,000 cases a year.
Wow. I'm out on the water a lot, and I hear the radio dispatches on 16. Somebody's EPIRB goes off or whatever, mm-hmm. And there's a lot of effort, it seems like, that you guys go through to determine if this is real or not. Mm-hmm. So I guess, what could you offer to boat owners or skippers to say, like, what are the things that you should do so that if you really have trouble, when the Coast Guard gets your distress signal, they know that it's real and not that they're chasing a ghost?
Properly registering your EPIRB, okay. And routinely updating it, because you'll be surprised how many times someone will activate it and we have no information. So if you don't put any information on your EPIRB when you register it, that doesn't help me. If you don't have an accurate phone number, an address, or anything like that, I can't help you. And like a description of your vessel, that's huge. And then a lot of people nowadays will have the digital selective callings, that red button on your VHF. Make sure, if you want that to work properly, make sure your GPS is plugged into your radio and register it and everything. So when you hit that button, I have your position and then I have all your information. But people don't do that and they hit it, and it's a random alarm. Our radio towers can ping the rough location of where it's at, but then I have no description. I don't know if you're actually in trouble. So it's like, we're like hesitant, oh, it's 40 miles offshore, that's 8 hours, like, let's start calling some partners, maybe get a helicopter. It kind of adds some uncertainty.
Okay. What is the process from your end if somebody on board, let's say I get thrown overboard, my poor wife is there alone, she hits the red.
That will never happen.
She hits the red button. What's the communication coming from you?
So if I can hail out, it's going to be vessel in distress in this position, right? Or hopefully have you name your vessel or whatnot. So we'll call out to you. And then we want 5 questions answered right away. Like, how many people are on board? What's the nature of distress? Like, why you need us? Description of your vessel, the position you're in, and life jackets. Make sure you're wearing the life jackets. And if you're close enough to land, I want a phone number as well, because radios, as we know, can get spotty. So if I have a cell phone, it's a secondary means of communication. I can talk to you. And then from there, I am running out the door trying to help you. And then we have a bunch of follow-up questions, kind of keep you on the radio, make sure you have accurate information. Like more of your name, all the names on board. But that's the 5 questions I really need to know right off the bat.
And can you describe your new station up in Fort Myers Beach? Because you're in that now, right?
Oh yes, we got spoiled, so thank you, taxpayers. So before, if you weren't, it was an older building, I think built in the 70s, I believe. It was 1 story, very small. The garage couldn't even fit one of her boats in it. There's mold issues. She was ready for some refurb, and it was scheduled before the hurricane. We moved across the street to Moss Marina. They housed us for 3 years over there in trailers, and unfortunately we were still there during Ian, so we got wiped out like everybody else. But the new building, she's 3 stories tall. She can withstand 150-mile-an-hour winds. She's flood-proof to like 16 or 18 feet. There's 2 very large garages or work bays. One's just for maintenance. The other is just so I can wash the boats, so we don't get all our pollution into the water. And then upstairs, a nice gym, a huge galley. The cooks are amazing too lately. And then the third story is a bunch of berthings. I'm used to a ship where there's 21 people sharing a very small space. It's 2-man berthing rooms with lockers. It looks just like a small hotel room. And then a large, we call the bullpen, all the cubicles, and that's where I'm sitting half the day on a computer. And then in the corner, right in the windows, if you see it, if you're at that mooring balls, the corner that's facing the mooring field, that's our watchstander if you look at the windows. So I'll have a guy sitting there listening to the radios, waiting for a call. But it's an amazing building. We still got some contractors touching up a few things, but we're fully moved in and ready to go.
Do you do any collaboration with CTO or Towboat US?
Direct like training or collaboration, not that way, no.
Doing search and rescue or just, the boats out in the water were in storm season, I imagine you guys are, pretty well taxed.
Yeah, I haven't seen them actively partake in like search patterns or like a prolonged search. They have a business, so if they hear someone broken down, I usually see them on scene as well. Like if it's something non-light threatening, they're usually out there. We will contact them for you. So if it's a non-distress or non-life-threatening situation, like if you guys run out of gas, your engine breaks down on a beautiful day, no seas, and everyone's going to be okay, by law, by Congress, made a law that I can't interfere with commerce. I can't interfere with their job, because if I towed every single person in, CETO wouldn't exist. So we have to let them be able to have a business. So if it's non-threatening, we have a 10-factor list that we go through to make sure that your life's not in danger. If you can wait an hour or 2 for CETO, we'll let them handle the case, and we can issue.
Life endangerment would be.
That's in a nutshell description, and every single case is different, and it's based off the officer of the day that's on duty. There's a command duty officer and Sector St. Petersburg, where you're all talking and determining our apprehension, like can they sit or is it life-threatening, and we go through that 10-factor and determine whether we deem it a distress or not. But the clear-cut case, if you're just out of gas on a beautiful day, you have plenty of food, plenty of water, perfect health, sitting off in the ocean, like think you can wait 1 hour for CETO, you're gonna wait for 1 hour for CETO. But that is by law. I can't do that. The Congress made that law, I think in '82, and then that's what we have to work with.
I bet most of us have some kind of arrangement with CETO or Towboat US. Anyway.
Yeah. Yep. And then we can contact it. We can issue what's called a MARB, a Marine Assistance Radio Broadcast. So we can broadcast to the general public to come out and help you as well. Because a way that I describe it is if a police officer stops you on the side of the road because you broke down, he's not towing you. Like he might come by and offer his phone or help you fix something real quick, but he's not towing you. I do have the capability a lot of times, but I kind of have to meet a certain threshold. Because if I get tied up for someone who's out of gas, but then 20 minutes later someone's in life-threatening condition, it gets a little hairy.
We do have this regatta October 4th through the 6th. So just stay on your toes.
We'll be out. We'll go out and say hi. How about that? We'll wave and do that.
Yep. Yeah, just be around.
Yep.
I think we'll be fine. But,
Hopefully, yep.
You mentioned mooring fields. Are you responsible for mooring fields at all?
No, besides enforcing a federal law of sorts, like you can't anchor in a channel. So if you anchor in the channel, you're going to hear from me. Right. But the mooring fields, no, that's going to be the town or the county or whoever's managing it. I think Fort Myers Beach Harbor Master, I believe, runs that, or the county. I forget who he works for, but beyond federal law, that's the state or whoever.
How do you define your jurisdiction? Like,
can you do the Gordon River, the canals,
Yep.
or do you just do?
Any navigable water to the ocean. So if I can drive a boat, if I can drive my boat as far as inland, I have jurisdiction. I have jurisdiction all the way through the Coastie River. Lake Okeechobee is a federal waterway, so I have jurisdiction in Lake Okeechobee all the way out to the other side. If it's a landlocked lake that doesn't touch the ocean, I don't have jurisdiction there unless it's on the border between two states. It gets kind of hairy. I can talk about it all day, but if I can drive my boat there from the ocean, I have jurisdiction. It's the easiest way I can describe for us.
So when the Naples police are in the channel, you know, giving tickets and stuff, like if something happens like on the Gordon River, do they take over or do you take over?
So the state has jurisdiction out to 9 miles on the Gulf. So the state can issue tickets and enforce state law out to 9 miles. And then it's unique to the Gulf side. A lot of the states, most of the states in the Gulf of Mexico claim 9. On the eastern seaboard up to like New York and all that, that's only 3 miles. I don't know why I asked the question. They were like, I don't know. But I guess so. I guess they told me when Florida made their constitution, they claimed it. I'm like, all right, cool. And then so generally my major enforcement starts beyond 9, and then state law kicks in kind of before. There is overlap, so I can board you right outside the mooring fields or whatnot. But say there's a criminal offense, like there's something kind of major, we kind of pass that to the state if it's within 9. Mainly because I don't have a jail, I don't have a booking process, I don't have anything like that. So we work with our partners and give it to them.
Do you have the authority to board anybody?
Yes.
Without any kind of paperwork?
Yep, for inspection. That's what I'm doing. So that's my authority. 14 USC 522 defines our authority. So I can stop any vessel within the United States jurisdiction to conduct searches, examinations, arrests, seizures, inspections, blah, blah, and all that craziness. But essentially, yes, I can stop you to conduct an inspection. And that's what we're doing.
I think I saw you guys at a boat launch one time. Were you conducting free inspections on people's boats?
If you see us at a boat ramp, it's most likely, like 99% of the time, going to be the Coast Guard Auxiliary. They're our volunteer force. They're the ones that offer free vessel examinations. Yep. And they give you stickers. They do a full free examination. And the cool thing about that sticker is if I were to stop you for random inspection, I have to go through my whole checklist. I got to check all the items that they would. It takes a few minutes. Half of you have probably been boarded by us. If I see that sticker, by my policy, I can go, oh, you guys are good. I can move on to the next boat. So you can save a lot of time of us bothering you by having that sticker.
It was interesting because a lot of people seemed nervous about what they were doing. They're like, no, we're just here to
Yeah, it sounds like the auxiliary. Yep. We try not to go on the boat ramp so there isn't a confusion. I do have authority there on the boat ramp, but we try to stay away and let them do their job and teach. Because it'd be pretty messed up if I'm just tagging you at the boat ramp, I feel like. I'd rather get you offshore, but.
So just go over this again. If I get the Coast Guard Auxiliary sticker, you'll leave me alone?
I can leave you alone. I have the option to leave you alone. If you did something that messed up, then I might talk to you longer.
I'm talking about getting on my boat.
It's not a policy. My guys aren't required to leave you alone, but that's one of the only authorized times I can go, hey, can I just see a life jacket? Okay, you're good, and move on.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the inspection.
Yeah. Technically, I can not do the inspection, but I can't tell my officers not to do it. But if they feel that they want to or there's a need to, they have the authority. They can still do it. If that makes sense.
I have a quick question. Besides what the state claims, 3 mile out on the East Coast and 9 miles in the Gulf, what is your jurisdiction? I'm asking you guys.
So if whatever the United States claims, right? So my capabilities here at Fort Myers Beach, I can go 50 miles offshore with my boats, right? The Coast Guard has jurisdiction potentially in any water. It gets really murky as you go more offshore. So the United States claims like 12 miles off is our border. So at 12 nautical miles offshore, that's kind of our border. So every U.S. law is enforceable below that. Yes.
That's like 400 miles.
The Magnuson-Stevens Act, the fisheries?
Yeah, fisheries.
That's out to 200 miles.
200 miles.
So the economic exclusion zone is out to 200 nautical miles. And that's where we claim essentially every natural resource of water, soil, oil, fish. That's out to 200 miles. So that's really the end of U.S. law per se, like from our border. But I was out in Eastern Pacific enforcing drug law, but that's like treaties in partnership with other countries. And then if you're a U.S. flag vessel, I can stop you anywhere in the world besides another country's territorial sea. Kind of murky. I can talk about law all day, but I hope that made sense.
We cruised down to Panther Key, Tiger Key. What are your thoughts on carrying firearms?
On Panther's Key?
On our vessels, while we're in the 10,000 Isles.
Second Amendment right. You can do what you want. So please tell me you have a gun, and then we're all kosher. Just abide state law. Federally.
Do you recommend it?
It's up to you. I don't have, besides the general want to defend yourself, there isn't a specific reason why I would carry down there versus somewhere else. So, like, I'm not aware of extra crime or anything down there at the moment. I haven't heard pirates yet.
Well, I didn't know whether there were lots of overlaps between recreational boaters and drug runners that were coming into the Everglades.
No, I would not be worrying about drug runners actively running in the Everglades every day. But we're always on the lookout. That's our unicorn. We always want to stop drugs. That's like a major role the Coast Guard has. So we're the ones constantly trying to think about it and thinking about those routes.
And
so
if we see something that we think is suspicious, call you on the phone, not on the VHF, right?
yeah, give us a shot on the cell phone. Call them on the VHF, might give them some intel. But there's nothing to actively worry about. But like I said, that's one of our main missions. We're the ones always trying to think about drugs and illicit materials on the water because that's our jurisdiction, that's our job. So that's what our mind usually kind of goes that way. But, cool.
Use drones?
The Coast Guard has drones. We're starting to really get into that space. Here at Station Fort Myers Beach, we do not. There's definitely been a conversation. I would have loved to have a drone a few times. But I know on ships in the counter-drug mission, we are using unmanned or aerial drones. And they work. I've seen it firsthand. It's much better than intelligence. When I can see a camera angle from a drone saying there's drugs, it's much better. So
search and rescue is helicopter? I mean, at best, not drones.
Yeah, no. For search and rescue, I haven't seen a drone used for search and rescue yet. I think we're still kind of figuring that out. I know there's a couple people trained up in St. Petersburg. There's a sector up there that's kind of like our boss or the next level up in the food chain. They have a few people trained, and they're starting to kind of use that technology and figure out how we can incorporate it.
What's your opinion of it?
Of drones?
Yeah.
For our missions?
Yeah.
I think it's be highly beneficial. There's a lot of times I might get a call right off the beach. I'm like, if I can just send a drone up right now, I'd find out in 2 seconds. Or while my boat crew's getting ready, because it takes a few minutes for my guys to get dressed out, I could send a drone and get eyes on immediately in a certain area. So I highly support it. And I would love to play around and figure out how we can incorporate that. So for search efforts, if there's belief life is still possible, that's Coast Guard jurisdiction. We are the lead search and rescue agency. So we were tasking other agencies out there assisting in the search. At one point, it goes into body recovery. There's computer systems and all that. They can determine the probability of life after a certain point on top of the story and what we think happened and everything. And then people way higher than me, who get paid a lot more money than I do, make that decision on whether we need to stop searching or suspend the case. We'll never close the case if we never save somebody. It's always suspended. So we'll suspend the case and we'll go out. But I know it got suspended, and then the families got notified, and then now it's more sonar and body recovery, unfortunately.
Do you work at all with the Civil Air Patrol, search and rescue, or Border Patrol?
Border Patrol, yes. I haven't worked with the Civil Air Patrol, but there's been a couple conversations. But we do have Coast Guard Auxiliary Air Support. So we usually tend to go there, but I know they have the Coast Guard Auxiliary Air has connections with the Civil Air Patrol, but I directly don't.
What about aerial assets? What's the criteria for when you're going to send a helicopter out for a rescue versus boat?
Distance, time, speed. If they're very far offshore, my boat can only go like 45 miles an hour. It's just my big one that can go offshore in like really bad seas. She doesn't go very, very fast. Not like the one that picked you up, sir. She's a little slower. So if I'm going 50, 60 miles offshore, it's going to take a while. where that helicopter can get on scene and actually put eyes on. Because you believe it, like over the radio, it's hard to determine and picture what's going on. So once we have our eyes on it, we can dissect the case much faster. And they have rescue equipment on board as well. So if someone's in dire need, they can put a swimmer in the water, grab that person who needs dire need or dire help now, and send them off. And then they could drop a life raft for the rest while it takes me another 30, 45 hours to get on scene. So that, again, that's above my food chain. I don't have control of helicopters. That's actually like 2 people up that have control of the helicopters.
Are you EMTs? Do you have EMTs as part of your normal team?
We are not EMT certified. We're actually trying to bolster our EMT program. We get trained routinely by our local fire department, but it's basic first aid plus, say probably a little bit better. But I'm not EMT or paramedic certified. Luckily, the partnerships we have, I'm only on scene on a major first aid incident that I can't handle for only a few minutes. Then I'm passing it off. So I can stabilize, do some first aid. Here you go, do your crazy stuff. And if it's offshore, that's when that helicopter's coming. And then those guys are EMT or paramedics as well. So I'm kind of like, package you up, give you to the major help. That makes sense.
I love all the partnerships that you have. That's really
Yep, that's been my main goal. I think we were all trying to do the same mission, so let's all speak the same language and work together.
Are you communicating effectively though, so you're almost like one unit?
So a cool thing about MERT is they've actually supplied us with their county radios. So when we're on board, we have a handheld that can talk to the counties. And we're in conversations now of putting their radio in our watch center room. So we're actively growing our communications more and more. And I know Collier County and Lee County just talked to have their channels together. So this county, or these 3 counties, is the best communication I've ever seen amongst the state or counties or towns. So you guys are in a great spot for this.
Is there a website or someplace we can report missing ATONs or?
Just call me.
Call you?
Yep. Coast Guard Station, report the ATON. If you could take a picture, that would be amazing. Take a picture with where you are, the position, and that's all I need.
What's the function of the Coast Guard Auxiliary? Physically, what is their responsibility? Is it education, inspection?
It's kind of all that. So they're to boil it down, it's going to kind of sound like a cheap answer, but to assist the Coast Guard. They do the vessel examinations. They do public boater education courses. They hold events. Right now, I have 3 volunteer Coast Guard auxiliaries standing watch in the watch room. They got fully qualified to respond to mariners on the radio and man the watch. I also have 5 or 6 cooks. They volunteer their time and they're cooking. That's why I say they cook amazing meals. There's military meals and then there's their meals. Much better. So they truly assist in our missions. And then they have their aircrafts. They just recently helped me out in my last mission. We were targeting illegal fishing offshore, and they had their aircraft, and they picked out a couple vessels for me. Because when you're offshore, you can only see about 10, 12 miles out, right? They got aircraft, I can see way more, and they say, hey, drive over there. I'm like, all right, cool. And then they have boats as well. So they'll get orders from me. They request, hey, can I get underway? We'll pay for their fuel and reimburse them. And they do ATON verifications, make sure all the aids are good to go, and help in search and rescue if they're underway as well. So that's their mission.
How many are there?
So that work out of Station Fort Myers Beach, there's 9 flotillas and about 400 or so members.
Yeah. Where are those flotillas?
Marco, Naples, Wiggins Pass, there's 2 in Fort Myers, there's Franklin Locks, Cape Hayes, Northport, and I'm probably missing one. There's a lot, all scattered up. I'm the guy that has to talk to all 400, so I'm the guy. Yep.
How big is your staff? What kind of responsibility do you have?
We have 40 active duty members, 40, and then 25 or so reservists, and then the 400 volunteers.
Does a cutter go in the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah, so we're co-located with the Coast Guard cutter Crocodile. It's an 87-foot patrol boat. They're the ones that kind of push off beyond 50, because it's really hard for me to go beyond 50 miles for fuel and hours and fatigue. So they push off further and target the shrimping fleet, do boardings on them, make sure they're legally harvesting the shrimp and our fisheries and whatnot. That's their main mission. Locally here at Fort Myers Beach, they're co-located together, yep. So we have a long pier with my bigger boat that can go offshore. They're parked right next to us.
Is that right by Moss Marina?
Yep, right across. Yep. So next time you're up at that mooring field, you'll see the brand new Coast Guard building.
We'll be there October 4th to the 6th.
I'll wave to you. Yep.
Do you have a good story, Justin?
A good story? What kind of story?
Share. I don't know. Get some bad guys.
Police story? One of my favorite stories was out when we were chasing drug runners. And it's one of my first times working with Coast Guard Hitron. So I was on a 270-foot ship out in the middle of the Eastern Pacific, off the coast of Colombia, Ecuador, over there. And the law enforcement alarm goes off. We get in the boat. I get launched dangling down the side of the boat. And we also had a helicopter with Hitron, and there are Coast Guard snipers. So they're the ones that go super fast, go check out the boats. They're the ones that go through all those steps. They'll shoot out the engines. And I'll be coming up with the team. And I was driving the boat. There's a helicopter right above me, not even 100 feet off the surface of the water. There's a sniper hanging out the window, providing cover. I had both my boarding teams go up with their rifles. They're screaming in Spanish. They're telling them to go forward. There's mountains of drugs on the boat. And I can't hear a thing because the helicopter's going nuts. And I'm like, this is a movie. Like, I never thought this is what I'd be doing for a living. So that's one of the highlights of my career, is like this out-of-body experience. Like, what are you doing? This is nuts. But yeah, it was fun. Definitely, it was fun. There was some scary moments too, but pretty fun.
So we're a sailing club, and I'm just curious, you're a sailor.
I'm sorry, no.
Been on a sailboat?
I've been on a sailboat. So like I was stationed in Annapolis, Maryland. I think they proclaim that they're the sailing capital of the world. So I've been on a few sailboats, but I'm not that educated, I'm sorry, on sailboats.
Well, could you do it?
Could I do it?
Or would you do it?
I go on it. I think the coolest thing about sailboats is how quiet it is. Like when you shut off those engines and you're just sailing, and it's just nothing, no sound. That's pretty cool.
I'm always looking for crew, so.
We'll see. Yep. When you said if they know the difference between a Wentz and a jib, I'm like, I don't know. You got to teach me a lot. So. All right. That's good. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Yep.
Well done.